next week is a brand new week. Because you can have a week where you get a couple things on and it hits and after the show airs, it has like a life online, and you'll be like, I'm the king, I get this, I am the man. And next week you have a bad table and you just feel like crap, I guess. And so it's very week to week. You can go up and down. And so I guess don't revel in the triumphs or the tragedies too much. Obviously enjoy it and have fun, but you're always moving forward to the next week.
First, congratulations on another amazing season.
Thank you.
I'm curious from the three of you, we're going to get to some of the clips that we saw, but do you remember the moments where you were maybe watching SNL and you thought, oh, I'm going to do that someday?
Be very cocky to say. I remember seeing it, especially as a kid, and thinking it was so funny, but it just seemed so unattainable at the time.
Yeah, I feel like I had a similar experience where you watch these amazing comedians and you go, I'm loving what they're doing. They look like they're having so much fun. I could never do that, but it'd be cool if I could. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I same. Although I've never really admitted this, but I remember in my mid-20s, I was with some friends and I was not doing this at all. I wasn't doing comedy. I was doing hair, and some of my friends were just passing around like a sketch from SNL that weekend that they thought was so funny. And they were like, what do you think, And they showed me. And I remember thinking, I could do that. And then almost slapping myself in my head and what are you you do not do this, So, yeah.
Yeah, and you could.
Yeah,
and you could.
So.
So tell us about where you are, even for this coming week's episode. Tomorrow is a writing day, and Wednesday will be your first table read, right? I'm asking because I'm curious about the evolution of the characters that you're going to play from now until Saturday. What is this week like for you as far as figuring out who they are and just the nuances that are the things that people will watch and remember?
Ego?
I was going to say Mikey.
Heidi?
Gentlemen first. Today we just pitched. We all gathered in Lauren's office and we met our host for the week, Martin Short, and we pitched him. Yeah, very exciting. Really, really exciting. And we just pitched him some ideas, many of which we will never write, and it's just sort of an introductory exchange with the host and amongst our colleagues. And I don't know that I have any ideas for the week, but somehow between now and Tuesday writing night, I will scour the internet, pick my own brain, talk to colleagues, talk to friends, and come up with some ideas that I want to toy with. And then we get to see them at table read and hear them at table read and see if they actually work the way we think and hope they will. Yeah.
I mean, Heidi, tell me about that, because that's so interesting. In your mind, you think something might work, and maybe, I don't know, you're thinking about things over a couple of days, and then when you sit down to the table read, what is that like? How much do you have to just be you know what, we're just going to see how this goes?
Yeah, everything. I've certainly learned after being at SNL for a while now, sometimes the things you love the most, it's hard to get too attached now, because sometimes the things you love the most, it's you are the only person at the table read that loves that. But then you also want to stay excited about an idea too, and see it through and believe in it. But you really never know. And sometimes things hit at table and then they don't hit at the dress rehearsal. It is always surprising what makes it I will say one of the thing it's interesting just sitting between these two Beavis and Butthead at table, it had been pitched before and it was really funny when they brought it back, but I had no idea what it was going to be. I will say Lisa from Temecula at table was
big hit.
It was you knew something different was happening. It was just there was an this was something like no other. And then to see all the way through, and also I feel like the pressure of you knowing that everybody thought it was like,
Oh boy.
because I know she talked to me. She was like, now they want to give the sketch was called like restaurant or something like that. Now they want me to have a name, She's like, I feel like it's cursing it, but like,
I was like, yeah, it was birthday dinner. Yeah.
Yes,
And
yeah.
we really don't know. And so to just add to your point about that is on Tuesday when you are writing, you want to just write something you're excited about and you're enjoying, and one of the telltale signs is like, I'm having fun doing this. The writers and me are enjoying this, we're laughing with each other, and you try to just make it the best writing night possible. But I think about watching Heidi do the mom whose son just the mom whose son just got famous. I'm like, watching her do that at table read, and she had the sunglasses on her head, I was like, oh, she's having a ball doing that, and that joy is contagious. As a viewer, I realize and understand now. So like when we're enjoying something, the odds that the audience and our colleagues even at table read will enjoy it are higher.
I sit next to Heidi at table read and have almost died like about 9 times. You're a gifted physical comedian, is what I'm trying to say. What was the one where you threw the phone case and it almost hit Lauren?
Yeah.
She was so into character. She was like, oh, I don't need this. Threw a phone case. And in slow motion, we watched this thing sail over Lorne Michaels' head. But he was reading along. He didn't see it.
And
It was like I saw my life flash before my eyes.
And I was like, dodged a bullet, and then I'm doing it in dress rehearsal that Saturday, and I throw the phone case, and it hit Shay right in the forehead.
Right?
And I'm like, I'm a danger. Like, just, yeah.
Mikey, you started as a writer
Yes.
before you were a cast member and a writer. So
Correct.
how did starting writing inform you? Like, did you have a different sense of like, oh, I know what goes into this.
Right.
I know
think
what kind of characters to do.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it kind of gave me a sense of you'll know what works, but as these ladies said on Wednesday at table read, you never really know what'll work. What it did kind of give me a chance to learn the show, because there is no like supervisor telling you what to do. You just are thrown into it and you're forced to survive. It's like that Man versus Wild where they throw the dude into the wilderness and he's like, I guess I'll survive somehow. So I can't imagine starting out as cast, like having to be on camera as well as kind of navigate the ins and outs of the show. I guess it did, because when you're a writer and you have a sketch that gets picked and goes to dress rehearsal, you sit under the bleachers with Lorne. You sit right next to Lorne.
Do you
And
block phones from hitting him?
I know. No! In chairs just like this. So it's like Lorne's here, you're sitting here, and there's a little monitor there, and there's producers across from you. And if your name is first on a script, meaning it was your idea and you were kind of the lead of it, you have to sit next to Lorne, and it's always a big deal. You're always like, am I the one? Because if something goes well, it's fantastic. But if something's bombing, you're like next to your boss, and it's also Lorne, and it's an awful experience. But it is interesting to hear just like things he says during a sketch, and you kind of get a sense of things to avoid as a cast member, because he'll make the occasional comment under there. So kind of gives you a sense. But again, you never really know.
Tell us a comment he said that stayed with you.
We're dead. Do the word dead.
I don't know. I mean, it's one time it was a classroom sketch, and they were all like, hi, Miss, the class spoke in unison, and he was like, there's nothing I hate more than when people talk in unison. I was like, nothing? He might have just been messing with me. Just kind of like, I'm going to mess with this new kid. But I was like, mental note, never write anyone talk. I'm still gun shy about. Did you guys hear that he doesn't like the word crap?
No, that's news to me.
So I'm like, even in texting someone unrelated to the show, I'll start writing crap and I'll be like, no, I can't use that word.
I think I had something in where I was like, I don't give a rat's crap. And they were like, Lauren hates it. So it turned into like a rat snack or a rat
turd.
Yeah.
The synonyms we have for crap are so many. We all have a database on our computers.
The Beavis and Butthead sketch that we all just saw some of, that one was kicking around. I mean, that was kicking around for a while, and it's hard to believe that it took this long, because then you guys did it and it just went crazy. Like, people went nuts for it.
Right. I guess it's kind of that weird alchemy of the show. It's almost like magical when something works, in terms of it's the right host, the right idea, the right cast members you have with you. And that one, on its face, it's incredibly stupid. I mean, there's no reason it should have worked as it did. And we had tried it a couple times. It just wasn't there yet. We did it with Jonah Hill, and that went to dress rehearsal, and it made it to air, but it never aired because it was so far down it got cut for time. But what was the AI discussion that Heidi's hosting? It used to be a like Scott Peterson type murder thing, like you're accused of murdering your wife, and then we're in the background. And it was a little too dark. I think it iced people a little bit. So I think it needed to go through that evolution, and then, it needed to be Ryan Gosling. There's something magical about him. The first time he hosted, I was a writer, and my colleague Streeter Seidel, who I write all my stuff with usually, we had written the Kate McKinnon UFO Close Encounter sketch where she's like, oh, thank you. I get applause too, ladies. And so I told him after he was leaving, after the last time he hosted, I was like, you're magical. Anytime you come on the show, you change my life. So he's such a wonderful, and he's so nice too. He's so humble. He's not like, yeah, I know. He's just like, really? You think it went well? I was like, yeah, it was great.
One of the things that people loved the most was Heidi when you break. And it's such a funny thing, because it's like, you all know that the audience loves when you break, but I imagine is that like your worst nightmare to do it, or are you like, it is what it is?
Yeah, I'd never really seen you break.
Yeah, it's not like it's a worst nightmare. I will say I just took it very seriously in a way that was probably a detriment, like to not break. I think I was in the Groundlings before, and I broke in a sketch there once, just in a way, like, honestly, it was like the first line of the sketch. My friend and I like laughed so hard. And then we did it again and again and again. And the director sat us down and was like, you guys haven't even gotten a line out in your laugh. Like, no one knows what's going on. It's not funny to anyone, but you guys, it's disrespectful. And it was just because it was a close friend and we just couldn't control ourselves. So I had been really coached not to do that. And then I got SNL and I was like, I really can't do that. Even though I see it, I think it's endearing. But it took, a really good friend of mine looking the way he did to just make me go. Yeah.
What was the creature from the movie?
There was a movie that came out when I was in 7th grade called Warriors of Virtue. Nothing.
Huge applause.
It was about these samurai kangaroos, and it was a bunch of actors in kangaroo makeup. The makeup artist did the best they could. And my friends and I saw it as a joke, and for 2 weeks in 7th grade, it was like the funniest thing in the world to us. And I had not thought about Warriors of Virtue or seen one of those kangaroos since 7th grade. And when I looked back, he looks just like one of the kangaroos. So
She was a true hero during that sketch too, because online they fixed it, but at the beginning when we were on air, when she's introducing the sketch, there was some weird audio. She's just like, welcome to News Nation tonight, AI, and all of a sudden it was like, it was some weird speaker, but I mean, it was loud and oppressive, and everyone heard it. So to keep going and not be rattled by that was impressive. I was like, oh no, audio's going to ruin this sketch.
I wanted to bring up something that I am always thinking about. Ego, I want to start with you because just watching some Father Lawrence, like, tell us about, I mean, the balds, the slides. I mean, every
Ego plays a
single
dude
detail.
remarkably well. You're gifted at it.
Thank you.
It's an amazing thing. Do you feel like once you're totally in it, you're like, oh, okay, now I can do my job?
I am Father Lawrence. Yes, yeah. It does. It's what's so incredible about the show is you have these ideas, and then you write it, you put it on the page, and it just lives on the page. And you kind of you don't want to get too attached to anything you do, as Heidi said, because we don't know if it's going to work out. But you're kind of sort of imagining what the character may look like. And then the costume and hair departments really come together to bring these characters to life. So that week, when we talk about not knowing what we want to work on in any given week, I had been meeting with some writers, and I'd gone through this list in my phone of like, here's a half idea, here's another half idea, here's a bunch of half ideas, nothing from them. And I'm like, okay, I'm running out. And then I thought, which ironically I don't ever think to do, but I was like, okay, this is something that made me really laugh this morning. My dresser at SNL had actually sent me an Instagram reel, and it was of a Caribbean church, and I was dying laughing. And I was like, and so I said to the writers in a pinch, I was like, this is last ditch effort. I'm like, this made me laugh this morning. They were like, we love that. And so then Father Lawrence was inspired by this real preacher in Jamaica and came together. The real preacher didn't have slides on. We threw that in there. But yeah, it's pretty amazing because once the costume comes on, I felt like I was in the Caribbean. I'm like, I have on a suit. I have on Adidas slides. Someone passed me the mic, and then Father Lawrence could do his thing. And so it's so cool to have the support of those additional departments make you feel more like the character than you ever would.
Yeah. And I mean, I think about the props and Heidi, I was thinking about the Mile High Burger and that prop that was epic. And I mean, when you're working with something like that, which is so much a part of the sketch, tell me about that.
That was interesting because, I thought, oh, fun premise. And then you're sitting in front of a Mile High Burger and realizing the joke is to eat it. And it's funny because it was Impossible Burger, but with, but it's still, or Beyond, but those still feel like the density of meat. It's still I thought I was maybe going easier with that. But one of our castmates, Chloe, after the sketch, and there were 3 patties, and also the patties were that big. She was like, was that cake? And I was like, no, I mean, it was burger, Impossible Burger. And she was like, why didn't you ask for cake? And I was like, it was never not, it just was I wrote a burger. So, but what was interesting too about that is you kind of think, well, it'll just be funny to see someone eat like that. But the first rehearsal we did, it was every time it cuts to me, it needs to be a new joke or way to eat or find a new, that's just weird. That was one where I was like, oh, this is going to go good. And then first rehearsal was ugh, this is not happening. But then you figure it, you lose steam and you get insecure and then you figure things out and yeah.
She reduced that thing to soup, and it smelled so bad. It was disgusting. But it was incredible how you did that.
Well, what is that process like? Do you record yourself, and then especially with like Mikey was just saying, you're such a good physical, comic, and do you watch it and then think, oh, that worked for me, or is it kind of you're playing for the room?
It's really hard for me because I don't like watching things right away because I'm a harsh critic and I might be fixated on something else that takes away the comedy. But I actually have learned so much from Ego about being a better producer of my sketches because, you know, you need to be watching for angles. Like, she has got an eye on her stuff.
Very kind, thank you.
But I mean it. Like, you know, she knows if something should be a 2-shot, a 1-shot, and you know, and I would have, before I really started seeing her do that a couple of years ago, I would have just thought like, well, something's funny or not, and you can't save it. But you can start saving things in the technical parts of it. You can realize like, oh, just the way that it's being shot isn't right. Like, if you know, it's just fixated on this one thing. If you pull out and you see this, or it needs to just be on that. So I do a blend of both, you know, or
I learned
trust
that
the
from
writers.
Keenan. That was
Really?
Keenan. Yeah,
Okay.
I was like watching the legend work.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, this should be a wide. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do
Sure.
this too. I can have, you know, you just start getting more agency over your baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mikey, what was the either like hair, makeup, or prop that stands out in your mind of like either this thing made me insane or I loved it?
Do I bring up Beavis and Butthead again? I
think
peaked
so.
at Beavis and Butthead, let's be honest.
Do it.
Oh, let's be honest. I mean, that was an example of amazing hair and makeup where you're just like, I don't know how you did this. Because Jody Mancuso, who does the hair, Louis Zakarian, who does the makeup. Another one I played, it was a similar setup. There's a theme where I'm always weird in the background, but it was a Bart Simpson wig. And she just made it look like a real-life Bart Simpson. So I think that's a huge, huge part of it. Like, because it could go, if it looks too cartoony, it's not right. It has to be based in reality. And, you know, we work with some of the best people in the world at it, I feel like. And they do it in, like, 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, they're going up against, like, Game of Thrones for Emmys. I'm like, Game of Thrones is awesome. These guys had 2 days to do what they
Yeah,
do.
like the Gladiator sketch. Just
Yeah,
a
they had
couple
2
weeks ago. They had
days.
a day and a half to do.
Yeah. They built Rome in a day, literally. They built the
Yeah.
Colosseum, the tunnel. It has no right to look that good.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and the pre-tape, the filmed pieces have their own like crews and directors, and what they do is insane because they have to make like essentially like well produced, and they all look really good, which is crazy. And they only have like a day, and the moment the host arrives on set, like the talent producers are doing what they have to do of being like, the host needs to go as soon as possible. And the directors have to just work under these time constraints and stress. It's pretty remarkable that they're able to function.
Ego, Heidi brought up Lisa from Temecula, which I think is a favorite. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just went
Thank
at
you.
table read when Ego pitched this. I saw Eamon, one of our prop masters, bring her a full steak to have at
And
the
you thought it
table
was
read.
because I was
I
trying
thought
to
it was
get lunch to
'cause-
the table.
Yeah,
Just,
I was like, Ego eats a plain giant
no
steak.
sides.
No sides, no sauce. Just showing your commitment that at the table you cut
Yeah.
that steak.
I
Yeah.
love that it was written in that even at the table read that you were doing it and it wasn't something that was like added later.
No, we were, the writers of that, Gary Richardson and Alex English, were the night before, we're like, we have this fun idea for you. They sent me the script on Wednesday morning. This was really a lovely experience for me because I felt like relinquishing control was really rewarded. I like to be meticulous about sketches, and I know we only have a little bit of time to write it, and I'm like, I want to make it as best as I can and get it in time for the deadline. But they took such good care, and they saw the whole thing through. So they were like, Eamon, our prop guy, is going to bring you a steak, and that's what Mikey saw. He delivered a steak on a plate to me at our table read, and yeah, it was... Doing that at table, I mean, I was breaking when we were doing it at table read, which doesn't really happen. I was like, this is ridiculous. And that table is huge, and I was kind of still somehow shaking this giant table that seats all, 18, 19 of us and Lauren. And so, yeah, that was such a fun experience to go, oh, when you really want to sell an idea, it's now not just a concept at table. There are things you can do, such as have a steak delivered to you. And at table, there was a part where, she eats the steak, and at table, I ate the steak, and Eamon seasoned it a little bit, and it was actually good. I was like, it was kind of good. So, yeah, it was really enjoyable to get to play with that, and then, of course, through the week, that at one point for dress rehearsal, that steak became a T-bone, and I was like, I can't saw through this. And the night before the sketch, I remember feeling so stressed because I go, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to shake the table when I'm sawing the steak. I'm like, that's a lot of pressure on me. And then I totally forgot that the Monkey Boys, part of the production team, were gonna be under shaking the table. No one had told me, and I got there and I go, oh my God, thank God. I'm strong, I'm not that strong. Yeah.
I love what you said of that Keenan kind of, taught you guys about or passed on this knowledge and wisdom. Is there something that you tell new cast members that you have all, at a certain point, like you have to experience things to fully understand, but what do you want them to know?
I just usually, not that I'm offering unsolicited advice a lot, however, try to say, like, next week is a brand new week. Because you can have a week where you get a couple things on and it hits and it after the show airs, it has like a life online and you'll be like, I'm the king, I get this, I am the man. And next week you have a bad table and you just feel like crap, I guess. And so it's very week to week. You can go up and down. And so I guess don't revel in the triumphs or the tragedies too much. Obviously enjoy it and have fun, but you're always moving forward to the next week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just did a sketch with our new cast member, Emil, and it was he did an update this year that killed, but this was like going to be one of his first like character sketches. And I wouldn't say he was showing his nerves, but just having been in that spot before, I knew how it felt. And it was also neat for me just right now, like even how worked up I can get about something, to just do it with him, like step aside, read it after rehearsals together, and like just let him know that like seriously, like the secret to it is just to have fun, which sounds impossible, but and to let him know, like, if this doesn't work, it's not the end of the world for me, for you, for like, we're gonna still be friends. We're like, everything's gonna go on. Like, it's okay. Cause you can get so worked up, and being that senior to him was also just helpful for me to be like, I could actually give myself this talk every week and it would probably help.
Yeah, one of our new castmates, Ashley Padilla, had such a fun sketch, the I Got One, where she's got a joke that's really bad, but insists it's funny. And right before, I was so excited for it. It's always that getting that first sketch on as a new cast member is such a uniquely special experience, and there are a lot of nerves, but then you're excited and really hopeful and you want to see it through. But what Heidi said, I was just like, have fun, and we are all out here in this sketch just to support you, and we're excited to be sitting alongside you at this table, and I just have fun and take up space. And that's my thing. I think sometimes as a new cast member you can feel like the seniors are here, and that's who the audience wants to see and hear from, and so I'm gonna shrink or deliver my lines more sped up. And it's like, take your time, enjoy and indulge and have your fun. And so I was so excited to see that one go to air.
I think we're also excited to see Martin Short hosting this weekend and what you all do.
Short.
There have been a bunch of former cast members here for the at the show for the 50th. If you could act in a sketch with any former cast member, like dream, who would it be?
That's hard. I mean, some have hosted.
I would say.
Eddie Murphy hosted. We
Yeah.
got to be in a Mr. Robinson, so that was crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Will Ferrell was a big one. I'm trying to go back, I guess. I mean, anything with that original cast would be wild.
I'd love to be in one with Amy. I'm like, I'd love Amy to come back. That'd be so
Oh, you haven't been
cool.
here since Amy's
No.
come back? Oh, wow.
No.
Yeah,
That'd be so
that'd be
cool.
special.
And I know she's passed on, but Jan Hooks was Jan Hooks was one of my favorite ever. She's so funny.
Yeah.
Heidi, do you have anyone?
Well, yeah, I mean, Eddie Murphy is the first, but we got to be in one with him. But that's like number one, and we were supposed to be two annoyed neighbors in Mr. Robinson's neighborhood, It was really cute because, you know, he opens the door and we think he's like stolen our TV and we're supposed to be like, did you steal our TV? And he opens the door and Mikey and I are just smiling. Like, so, yeah.
They're like, you guys need to be annoyed. We're
Yeah.
like, oh, sorry, we weren't even aware.
Yeah.
That week was crazy. It felt like there was literal electricity in the building. I know it sounds cliche, but there was something about him and being in that building that was really special.
Getting to see him at table read, I like still remember that. I was like a master at work, and it looks so remarkably effortless to him. And he's pretty like quiet guy, and so to see the range of in his comedic talent is so incredible, and it's so different from then Eddie, the person you would talk to. But I felt like watching him at table read, I was just like, I need to learn. I just watch and learn. He's amazing.
You three are also amazing, and I think we all can't wait to watch this 2024 last episode.
Oh, wow.
I know. Think about that. I know. So I just want to thank you all so much. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank
you
you,
to SAG-AFTRA.
everybody.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.